Okay. Hello. Hopefully the audio is okay on this. Hopefully this is something of value. So I just recorded a video not too long ago, and you can go, I guess. And I don't know. I just had to break up the energy. You know what I mean? And sometimes you just gotta shake things up. You know what I mean? Just gotta do something out of the ordinary. And for the most part, I was thinking before I started recording, like, I'm a very kind of spontaneous person. Like, I think I've developed a routine. I think I have some sort of consistency going on, but I also don't really like doing the same thing every single day. You know what I mean? Or being in the same, you know what I mean? I feel like I often go back to the makeup of my astrology, but if we were to look at my astrology, I have a lot of oh fuck, I forgot what I was gonna say. I forgot what I was gonna say. Also, there's a lot of noise right now as I'm trying to record all of a sudden. But and I'm gonna say something about that. There's a message about that. But I have a lot of mutable energy in my chart. I have a lot of Virgo, Gemini, and all that low-key Pisces energy too, but I don't really talk about that. Which are mutable energies, and if you don't know, mutable energies are often very flexible, very fluid, you know what I mean? And I do feel like that is me. I'm very fluid, I'm very flexible for the most part. And okay, no, but the noise thing, I wanted to say that before I forget, because I feel like I'm really in flow. I said a prayer before I started this and all that jazz. So sometimes when you try to practice, or not even sometimes, most of the time, all of the time probably, when you try to be consistent at something, when you try to like etch something out, like, you will face resistance. Like 9 times out of 10 you will face a moment where you're challenged, either like literally, physically, you know, emotionally, spiritually. Like, there will be a moment where you're challenged, you know. And because like if success was easy, everybody would have it. Everybody would have their specific definition of success, but it's not easy. You have to be mutable. And I think that's, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, now that I'm tuned into that, I feel like that's the biggest reason why I'm able to acquire this success, because I am so flexible. Like, in my thinking and just like in my way of being, you know what I mean? I'm just very like fluid. Like, I know how to adapt. And I don't know, like, I do feel like that's something you can teach, but at the same time, I think it is something you're born with. Like, you know, obviously there are other factors. We don't exist within a vacuum, but you know what I mean? I don't know exactly when this will be posted. Most likely it will be posted on a weekend. But the video I just recorded, I did a slight update on like how I was doing financially and stuff like that, because I've been working at like up leveling my finances and all that jazz, and it's been a very slow journey. It's been a very stressful journey, and you know, I mean, and I say that, and I don't mean to have that air of like, oh my god, I'm complaining about everything, life sucks, because I don't feel like I have that air. But like, I think even the most optimistic of us, even the most cheery of us, have our moments where like we're just overwhelmed, you know what I mean? And I mean, if you're watching this, I would assume that maybe you are somebody who is more optimistic, someone who's more like, you know what I mean? Or maybe you're feeling like you need that energy. I don't know. I really don't. Like, I have an idea of what my audience is like, but whoever this reaches, whoever's watching this, you know what I mean? Also, if you are subscribed, if you haven't subscribed yet, and you decide to subscribe, thank you. Thank you. I don't know. I've been doing this for like quite some time, and like, I don't know. I just started getting more serious about it in the last like couple years, last year I'd say. And I say that, but like, I don't know. Maybe that's the mutable energy in me. I'm always changing and adjusting, and you know what I mean? You know what? Actually, let me take a moment mentally to consider my progress. Because like a year ago, well, I mean, I'm still kind of in an abusive situation. But a year ago, I was in a really toxic situation. And a year before that, I was like super homeless. I mean, I don't know. When I think back though, the common denominator of like brightness and like joy and stuff is me. Like I feel like I really handle those situations really well, if I could toot my own horn. And like, I don't know, if you're watching this, I'd imagine you're the type of person who's gone through a lot of growth, you know, and sometimes you really do have to take that into account. You have to appreciate that. Like, you can't just gloss over that. You can, but like, because there will be people, once again, those moments of resistance, those moments of challenge. Like the last week or so, I've had people come into my live streams heckling me and, you know, challenging me on my beliefs. And once again, I feel like I handle these moments very well. But I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. Since I was talking about my astrology, also I hope the wind isn't an issue at all, because it's starting to pick up a little bit. But since I was talking about my astrology, I was thinking about my North Node earlier and my South Node. And if you must know, the North Node placement is actually about destiny and purpose and life purpose and all that jazz. Life lessons, karma, all that jazz. And when you look to your North Node in your astrology chart, it tells you basically what you're supposed to be learning, what your biggest lesson is here in this lifetime, you know. And then the South Node would be what you have mastered in past lifetimes. And for me, it's Pisces. It's Pisces energy. That's my South Node. And then, of course, the inverse of Pisces is Virgo. So my North Node is Virgo. And I'm thinking about that, and it makes a lot of sense. And it has always made sense. It's not like it's just a realization, but I'm just thinking about it. I'm reflecting because I have been like focused really heavily on money recently. And obviously that's a very tangible thing. That's a material thing, you know. And like, I think it's interesting because the Pisces energy is like imagination and fantasy and stuff. And I've always been a writer. Like, as long as I could hold a pencil, you know, I've always been a writer. I've always been somebody who to just, you know, express how I feel through that. And that's very Pisces energy, obviously, like creativity and all that jazz. And I feel like with the Virgo energy, I'm learning how to like ground that and how to use that and monetize that and like, you know what I mean? Be a productive member of this constructed reality that we all share. You know what I mean? Because, you know, like, because I was also thinking specifically about like where I was like a month ago, because I've recorded videos. I'm not posting them same day anymore, thank God. So there's, you know, you can't really clock the timeline unless I tell you the exact dates. But I remember, hey, missed a button. Because a month ago, I was like really stressing about money, and really because I had like a certain amount that I had saved up, and I went to go help a friend, and then after that, like, I just kind of spiraled with like negative decisions, and then I ended it on a good note. I ended up getting a sound bowl, and I think that was a really good decision. Was really helpful for my spirit. But yeah, I was in a really tough spot, and like I'm still kind of in a tough spot for the most part. But like once again, that progress, like energy, like just taking time to appreciate the progress that you've made. Like even if it's tiny, like even if it's small steps, it's something. Like even if all you did today was apply for a job, even if all you did was look for jobs or whatever, that's something. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know, I've always been a sort of goal-oriented person. I've always had like goals and ambitions and stuff. So it's hard for me to really talk from the perspective of somebody who doesn't have goals. You know what I mean? And I don't know, I imagine some of the people who watch me probably don't necessarily have huge life goals. And I don't know, that's not a judgment. It's just a sentiment. Like, it's probably the truth. I don't know. There are people in the world who don't have goals. I don't know. It's hard for me to wrap my head around because I've always had goals. But I do think it is very important to have goals, and like even if it's small goals, like get a girlfriend, or like ask my crush out or whatever, you know what I mean? I think it's really important to have goals and like to strive towards things. You know, like even when I was fucking homeless, and like I'm so thankful that I had that experience, because it gave me a lot more understanding and a lot more compassion for how the world works and how like people operate. Because being homeless, you kind of like, assuming that you're at a shelter, I guess, you kind of are forced to interact with other people, like first thing in the morning, and like before you go to, like, even if you don't necessarily talk to people, you're still surrounded by people. You know what I mean? And I'm a Gemini. I have a lot of social energies in my chart, a lot of Virgo. My ascendant is Libra. You know what I mean? I'm just naturally, I have the gift of gab. I know I do, you know? And so I would talk to people. I would make friends and shit like that. Made some really cool friends. Kind of miss a lot of them sometimes, but you know, it is what it is. But you know, being in that situation, you're forced to socialize with people and talk to people to some degree, or at least I felt that way. And it, once again, it helped me understand, like, you know, the way other people struggle and how other people live. Because I mean, you would, one plus one equals two, obviously. You would think being in a miserable situation, you would be miserable, right? But knowing myself and knowing how optimistic I can be and how like full of energy I can be, it's interesting to witness other people like go through the same situation that I'm going through and like have such a shitty disposition about it. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, yeah, I can recognize this is a shitty situation, but also like, let's fucking have a good time, man. It's like, you know what I mean? Or at least a peaceful time. I don't know. I'm not a huge partier. I did do a lot of drugs when I was homeless. And I did talk about that in my ebook, which if you check out the description, that should be there. Hopefully soon I'll have it on Amazon instead of wherever it is now. So hopefully that'll be a thing in the next like day or two. And then I can link that. Maybe by the time this gets posted, assuming that everything goes well, then I'll, you know, it'll already be up. And what I'm saying is kind of unnecessary because it's already, whatever, I don't know. I'm a time traveler. But no, I got sad for a minute because like thinking about like the way of the world and how a lot of people, you know, like once again, I personally am very full of energy and like to be happy and excited and, you know what I mean? And you would think everybody would like that, but you know, like some people are so used to their misery, some people are so used to their destruction, to their chaos, to, you know what I mean? That like the idea of truly being happy and content is like terrifying. You know what I mean? Like I think of the song Scared of Happy by Fifth Harmony. Oh my god, is that a joke? Freaking Tombstone, I'll be back. Oh my gosh, look at that. Can you see that? Look at that. That's ridiculous. That's hilarious. I love it. Oh my god. If you haven't noticed by now, I'm in a cemetery. Which I call these graveyard chats. Which, I don't know, like, for literary purposes, you would think, I guess, cemetery chats would make more sense. But, I don't know, graveyard chat just make... It flowed to me easier. I didn't think cemetery. But this is technically a cemetery. It's not connected to a church. Anyways. And then since I am in a cemetery, I guess I could talk about that. And I thought about that before. I might have talked about it before. I don't know. But I think about it in this context because there's a song by Sarah Bareilles called Chasing the Sun. And it's like, it's a really old city stuck between the dead and the living. So I thought to myself, sitting on a graveyard shelf. Something like that. I could have done better, but you get the point. It's a cemetery in the center of Queens, and she goes on to say, you know, remember that life is meant to be, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you shouldn't just waste your life away. And in a sense, like a graveyard is proof of like people, of how people waste their lives and all that jazz. And, you know, I say waste. It's a very strong word. I don't necessarily mean to put anyone down, but you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, if this is resonating for you, you know what I mean? Like, you know you're not following your soul's intuition. You know you're not doing the things that you know, like... And if that doesn't resonate for you, awesome. That's beautiful. I love that for you. But you know what I mean? Like, if you're open to it, consider this like a check-in of like, you know, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And like, free will. You could do whatever you want, but like, just consider how you'll feel, how your spirit will feel at the end of your life. And you haven't done anything that you wanted to, you know what I mean? Because like, we all have dreams and goals, and maybe I'm wrong. because I listened to Bob Proctor recently, and he said, I'm thinking of him, rest in peace, I guess, because there was a recent podcast upload of him from when he was alive, and he was talking about how he didn't really have dreams when he was younger. And I don't know, maybe he was really old, obviously, so I mean, who's to say that his memory is, I don't know. I like to believe that we all have dreams, we all have goals and stuff, but I guess maybe that's not true. There's always a rule to exception, so maybe I'm just being limited. Maybe let me shut up. But either way, I feel like most of us. See, now why am I speaking like this? Why am I excluding people? Because I want to say we're all here for a purpose. We're all here for a reason. We're all here to learn. But I guess spiritually, there are ideas, there are philosophies of like some people are just kind of like NPCs, or some people are just kind of extra energy or whatever. I don't necessarily enjoy having that perspective, but I guess that is a truth. I guess it is a truth. And to some degree, I feel like maybe that's just for this lifetime. You know what I mean? Sometimes people just gotta be the extra. But then again, I don't know, like, because it's like, I just feel like that's a choice, though. I don't think that's necessarily in their program. I think that's just a choice. Like, I think maybe you've experienced so much pain from life that you just kind of turn off your intuition. You just stop listening to your spirit because maybe you've been hurt by doing that in the past. You know what I mean? Because we do live in a very material world, and when you're very spirit-led, like, you will receive challenge, you will receive pushback. You know what I mean? Like, that's something I've learned in the last few years, like being homeless and even not being homeless. You know what I mean? Because I mean, I say I was homeless and I was on and off. Like, I'm a very God bless, I'm a very thankful person. You know what I mean? I'm very thankful for like the energy that I carry, because like I could have had a worse experience, and I've witnessed people go through a lot worse than I have. But and I say all that to say, because I was homeless on and off. Like, I met people, and sometimes I would be housed for a little bit. You know, there was like on and off. I was homeless. Like, I wasn't consistently on the street like other people might have been. I don't know. So I'm just overexpressing that, oversharing that. It's like that was part of my experience. Like, I wasn't that down bad. And I also was on social media, and I did post stuff, and I did have like an online sort of community. Can I talk about that for a second? Can I be transparent about that? Like, I don't know. I feel like there are other creators out there, other influencers, other people who, put themselves out there who probably feel the same way. Like, once again, I have a lot of social traits in my chart. So you would think, like, just looking at my chart, you'd be like, oh yeah, of course he's super sociable. Of course he's super charming and all that jazz. Or maybe he's also a nervous wreck, because if you look at the Virgo, you could assume that I would be a nervous wreck. At some point, I might have been, but but I don't know, like, I'm being really transparent right now, and I hope that's okay. Like, I have been making content. I've been online since like high school. I think before high school, like, I've always been a fucking writer. Like, whether or not I was sharing with other people, I've always been a writer. I've always been a creator. I've always been a person who just creates things. You know what I mean? And I've also kind of always had a desire, a dream, a wish to be famous. And over time, as I've developed in my consciousness, as I've developed in my understanding, that wish, that dream, the desire has kind of transformed, and it has evolved, because I have more understanding now, and I update. I'm very mutable. And so that desire for fame has transformed into me wanting more so to be of service to the world in different ways, through my creativity, through my intuition, through, my talents and abilities. And I think that to some degree, I'm a very selfless person. And that being said, though, there's a part of me that feels like there's like a disconnect between me and like my community, my audience. I don't know, like, I've had people come and go when it comes to like who watches my content, who engages with my content. And I don't know, to some degree it's bittersweet, but it's just kind of like in my personal relationships, like, people come and go, I come and go, like, it's, you know what I mean? And I remember I did look into something at some point, and they said that, like, most likely I will meet the people. I think it was an astrology reading. I don't remember who it was, God bless whoever it was, but like, I had an astrology reading or something like that, and they said like I'll probably most likely have I'll meet the people who are meant to be in my life long term later in life. Like right now, the beginning years, I'm like 28 right now, are like the setup. You know what I mean? And I wasn't upset about that information. I don't really mind that information. But I don't know, as a creator, as a person who like enjoys making content and connecting with people and stuff, like, I don't know, like, I don't want to say I'm stagnant, but like to some degree, I know that I've been holding myself back. I know that I've been, because I was just talking about not listening to my intuition, and like once again being transparent. I know that I've not done certain things to like progress in certain ways. Like once again, I'm a very mutable person. When I was homeless, I made a lot of very bold decisions and choices, and like I got out of my comfort zone a lot because mostly survival. Like I felt like I had to, you know what I mean? For example, panhandling. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with panhandling, and I personally think that it's okay, especially if you use respect and courtesy and consideration. You know what I mean? Like I think there's nothing wrong with it. There are laws around it, but I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it. And that's something when I was homeless I kind of picked up and then dropped immediately because fear, because I don't really love how some people can react to that, and that is not something I need to hold. I know that, like, if I were talking to somebody else, I'd be like, you don't really need to give a fuck about that, because as long as you protect yourself, as long as you're Gucci, as long as you're not like harassing anybody, like it doesn't matter how they react, as long as they don't get belligerent, as long as they don't try to get violent. Because once again, some people are crazy, and some people will react very crazy to you asking them for money. So I've learned, I don't know, and like I don't do that anymore. And even though I'm not homeless, I wanted to do it again, but like, And then another example, I guess a more contemporary example, is that like when I live stream, occasionally it comes up that somebody wants to hop on the screen or whatever. And I've done it in the past here and there, like in little brief moments, but for the most part, I've been a solo creator. Like I very rarely create with other people. And it's funny because once again, I have so many social placements in my chart. You would think that I would be a great collaborator, but and I guess that's like how the enemy, the devil, whatever you want to call it, the enemy within, the enemy without, gets you, because whatever you're most good at, whatever you're supposed to be doing, you will receive a lot of challenges around that. And that's why most people don't pursue the thing that they're supposed to be doing, because it's like, this is so fucking hard, and I don't think I have what it takes to do this, and so I'm not going to try, and then so a lot of people become like karmics and like become other people's lessons to walk away from and all that jazz, and or about spiritual protection, because there's always a lesson. I think there's always something to learn. I think once again, that's why we're here, like for the most part. And a lot of people feel stuck in their lives, feel so unhappy, feel so miserable because they refuse to kind of look at things as that such. Like they're just kind of like, well, this doesn't feel good, and so I don't think that I need to entertain that. And it's like, sometimes yes, but like sometimes you just have to be uncomfortable. And like it's really crazy to me that some people are so adverse to that. Like some people will do any and everything to avoid feeling discomfort. Like some people will do any and everything to avoid having to take responsibility for their destruction, And to me, once again, that's ridiculous, but I have compassion, I have understanding, because who knows what's going on in other people's minds, I said that in the video I recorded earlier. Like, you never know what's going on in somebody's brain, what goes on in somebody's body, Like, we can judge from the outside, but unless you're actually psychic, unless you're actually tuned into the energy, you don't know. And even then, you're just getting like an outside view of it, you know what I mean? Like, because I can tell you, like, sometimes when I tune into the energy of certain individuals, I can feel how chaotic it is in their head, but it's like, even then, that's an outside perspective. Like, I don't have that first point of view, you know what I mean? And I think that's something we need to understand as like humans, as social creatures, like you can't just assume what's going on in other people. Now, obviously, you should protect yourself and make sure that you are safe when dealing with certain people. even if you're not judging them. And I think that's where people get fucked up, because it's like, well, if I'm protecting myself from them, that means that I'm judging them. No, bitch, you're being smart. like like one thing I've learned doing what I do and just being who I am, like, a lot of people are fucked up in the head, and I don't necessarily, I try to hold space for compassion for people. Like, I've dealt with some like really fucked up people, like people who like are really questionable, and like I think I've been able to do that because I do hold space for compassion. I do hold space for understanding, you know, because I'm a very understanding person. I want to understand things, so I just naturally understand things, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought. I was like, where was I going with this? But, you know, I've dealt with some fucked up people, and like I it depends on the situation. I'm not going to say like cut and clear like all the time. I'm honest and transparent with people. Sometimes I feel like it's better to, you know, hold your tongue, but you know what I mean? Like I know how to interact with people without like, cause I watch a lot of narcissist content. Like I watch a lot of therapy, psychologist, narcissist talk. And sometimes I feel it in my soul that like, even though this person is a professional, I'm like, you got it a little bit wrong, buddy. You know what I mean? Because then they'll say things like, definitive things like, well, you can never get them to understand you. You can never get them to like be on your side or stuff like that. And it's like, once again, I've dealt with some fucked up people. And I've learned that if you're able to shapeshift, if you know how to like deal with people's emotions, if you know how to like, you know what I mean? Like mirror somebody and like make somebody feel safe, like you can do almost anything. You know what I mean? And like, maybe that makes me a dark empath. Maybe that makes me low-key a narcissist. Maybe I'm the narcissist whisperer. I don't know. But I just feel like I have a really good understanding of people and like the world, and you know, and I'm always learning. I don't mean to say that I was like, oh, I know everything and you should come to me for it. Like, no, because I'm always learning. I think that there's always something to learn. I think the best of us understand that there's always something to learn, always something to integrate within the experience, you know? And that's also something, if I could like segue into complaining, I think a lot of people think that they're way too smart. They want to believe that they're smarter than they are. And I think that's a lot of people's downfall. You know, a lot of people want to believe that they are, you know, an expert in their field, or they're an expert in what they, you know what I mean? And you could be that, but it's like, there's always more to learn. There's always more to understand. You know, and specifically, if I could name drop, I don't know, Dr. Ramani. I love her content. You know what I mean? But occasionally she'll say something that kind of clashes with my spirituality, my spiritual understanding, and I have to take it with a grain of sugar. I almost said a grain of salt, but a grain of sugar. I have to, you know what I mean? Because I get what she's saying, but it's like, because I was watching one of her videos one of her newer videos, and she was saying something about like, you know, like basically that they're unmovable. Like in most cases, like you can't get them to like, you know what I mean? And I'm in my head, I'm like, well, I'm a shapeshifter. I know how to like, you know, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think you should bend over backwards for somebody else, but like, it's called acting. It's called, you know what I mean? And that's what they do. You know what I mean? I do think I'm a dark empath. I know I am, and I don't mind it. I'm not like saying it shamefully. Like, I know I am. I'm a very empathic person, but I also have like met myself deeply enough to understand that like there's also darkness inside of me. There's also darkness inside of everybody, and like because I'm aware of it, I'm able to like, you know, not project it onto others, but use it when it's necessary, because sometimes it's fucking necessary, because this fucking world's crazy. I just want to take a moment real quick for gratitude, I guess, as like there's 3 birds in the sky or whatever. I'm really thankful that I chose to make this video, because I don't know, like once again, like I only made this video in an attempt to break up the energy, to like spend more time away from like smoking, because I've been really trying to get out of that habit, getting out of that cycle, and it's a lot, man. Like, I think I'm doing pretty well, once again, considering, but like, you know, as a person who wants the best for myself and wants to be hard on myself, it's like, bro, you bitch, you need to fucking take the suffering more. because it helps take the edge off, you know. Like, I do a lot of work, I do a lot of psychic work and stuff, and maybe we could call it an energy leak, maybe it's an energy leak, I don't know, but like, you know, I am part human, and sometimes the human in me is very stupid, and like, why would you do that? Oh yeah, because you didn't want to feel uncomfortable. Or like I said a couple moments ago, like, some people will do any and everything to not be uncomfortable. And that's also why addiction is a thing. Like, I've done a lot of research on that. Like, that's a big reason why addiction is a thing. It's because the brain is so fucking powerful, and it will do any and everything to not be uncomfortable sometimes, for certain individuals, you know what I mean? So I don't know, go easy on yourself. If you're watching, if you're dealing with any sort of addiction or whatever, go easy on yourself, man. Like, the world is fucking crazy. Like, you have every right to want to get high, you know? And if you're trying not to do that anymore, if you're trying to go sober, fucking awesome. Even if you haven't gone sober yet, fucking appreciate that, you know? Because, like, you shouldn't compare yourself, but like, let's just think there are people in the world who don't give a fuck about their habits, about what they do. Like, they just kind of go with the wind, and, you know, once again, no judgment, no shame if you are one of those people, but like, you know what I mean? I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to those of you who resonate with like what's going on within me. So like, I don't mean to exclude anyone, but you know what I mean? Like, anyways, remember, miracles happen all the freaking time if you can just align yourself with the energy. Whatever you're going through is fucking temporary, bro. Because like, it is. That's just how it is. Everything is temporary, you know? Money is temporary, life is temporary, everything's temporary, man. It'll be okay. Keep your head up, keep your spirits high, stay hydrated, and deuces.